When men sense and realize that you're desperate for a relationship, that you're oozing of, I need you, I need a man, that codependency of, if you're with a man, then you feel all right, then you feel more confident. A lot of men, especially men who've been around, they can sense that on you. And the thing that ends up happening is you get a shut up ring if it goes that far, or you get strung along.
I've had relationships that I wanted to work out, but they just didn't. And it was because I showed up as a desperate bitch. I'm gonna just talk about it.
Okay.
I'm gonna just put it on the floor. I showed up as a bitch who needed somebody. I needed a companion. I needed somebody to be on the side of me.
Yeah.
I needed a friend. I needed a lover. I needed that. And I feel like when I gave out that energy, they took advantage of me.
Yep.
Ladies, if you have to text him first, if you have to kind of play this game where you have to kind of let him know your presence, please let him go, because there's another woman who he's thinking about. Protect yourself and leave him alone. Anytime that you feel like you are doing the pursuing, and I'm not talking about if you're dating a man who's busy and has a job, but he's being intentional with you, that's not the same.
Like, I had to look myself in the mirror and be like, bitch, you are so desperate for love. Like, you are so desperate for love. Like, do y'all know how hard that was for me to say to myself? I'm like, well, yeah, like, we've had a hard life. Why would we not want love? Like, why would we not crave that so deeply? And it's like, yeah, but, like, not at any cost, bitch. Like, don't be so desperate for it that you're literally, like, letting your emotions, your feelings be unattended. Just left unattended. When you know that how deeply you feel things, you need your emotions and feelings to be very deeply tended to. Like, that's on your mental health, babes. That's on you being able to get up and get out of bed in the morning, and you're not allowing that for yourself. I was forced, bitch. Forced. Like, I literally had no choice, okay? I was forced to look in the mirror and go, you are the villain. You are still the villain. After all this time, after all this growth, after all this progress you've made, and you're still the villain. You're still doing the same shit. That was hard. That was real hard.
That codependency of, if you're with a man, then you feel all right, then you feel more confident. A lot of men, especially men who've been around, they can sense that on you. And the thing that ends up happening is you get a shut up ring if it goes that far, or you get strung along. This is why there are a lot of women who will be dating a man who you'll see obviously are not anytime soon being ready to marry them, but they will still stay with them for years and have an engagement ring on. Worst case is the women who have a promise ring. It's just wasting your time. And especially Ghanaian women, you go over to his house, you're cooking for him, you're cleaning, and then you're putting icing on top of it by giving him sex as well. And he's like, and then he dismisses you. He hang out with his boys constantly. Maybe he might have to introduce you to his mom or not, because guess what? All the girls before you have been introduced, but just because you've been introduced to his mom, Ghanaian ladies don't get that to be that you are the one. These men can use you as placeholders for however long they see it convenient for them, because you're just a means to an end. He's using you for the services that you provide and for your body, and sometimes you end up and you don't take charge and you have a kid with them while you're not married. You are in slippery slope mode. Gina Chumesi here, favorite Psych practitioner, where I talk about everything red flaggy, narcissistic, abusive, toxic, high conflict relationship, how to level up after separation and or divorce, especially in African communities, and how to use different mental health tools, including medications, to heal and level up and work on your finances, all that good stuff. So you are not desperate for a man because they can sense it. So you're doing all the labor, you're doing all the things, and some of you also end up having babies for this man outside wedlock. At least marriage, the papers give you some type of protection in case it doesn't work out. You can get support. Even that, it's not always guaranteed. So this is why it's important, rather than being desperate and running after a man, center yourself. Work on your joy, your happiness. Work on your money, your career, your businesses. Work on your community, making sure you have solid friendships. 1 or 2 friends is good enough. You don't need a whole slew of them and the drama. Work on your stress level, your sleep, your nutrition, all the good stuff. So I will urge you, Ghanaian ladies, center yourself. Stop being desperate for a man and glorifying marriage as some type of a pedestal that you're on because you get a copper ring or gold or diamond, whatever. If you're working good and you're solidifying your finances, I'm not saying men are not important in our lives, but you shouldn't be so desperate that you're seeing the red flags. He's stringing you along. He's being mean, dismissive. He's, when you show up like that, the more they take you for granted and you're losing your self-confidence and self-worth in that process. Okay, bye.
This is not a conversation that women want to have, but it's time we had it. Because of the nature of social media, many of us have become conditioned to crave attention. We want attention more than we want respect, more than we want to live wholesome lives, more than we want to create long-term sustainable success for ourselves. It's basically become an addiction. And before anyone tries to come on here and say that I'm on some kind of moral high horse, the call was coming from inside of my house. I just answered the phone. As much as many of you would like to sit here and say that you're not boy crazy, that has actually been ingrained into this patriarchal society. A lot of us were built and raised to focus on men, to please men, to have men be attracted to us and draw them towards us. My only question is, how far are you willing to go? Some of you show up for your Instagram story more than you do for class. You are willing to drop everything to go on a date, but you can't be consistent to go to the gym. You will spend your last dime on eyelashes to flutter in a man's face before you sit down and write a budget. I'm just pointing out what I've seen. I've seen some of this behavior in myself and I've done my best to rectify it, but now I'm going to bring it to the masses because we have to stop this. There was a girl who came on here and made a video of her showing her dad her TikTok account, which had blown up to 200,000 followers. He looked at her and he asked her, okay, do you have $200,000 yet though? And she said no. And he said, okay, focus on your studies. That's all I'm saying that we should do. Some of you are so obsessed with attention. You're so obsessed with creating this fake status online, when in reality, you still have nothing going on. Your looks will not save you. That is not your saving grace. If you do not develop your character, if you do not learn how to communicate, if you don't learn how to budget, how to take care of your money, you are going to suffer later. Either because of your complete lack of responsibility or because you're going to put that responsibility into a man who is going to abuse you because you'll have nowhere else to go. There's so much rhetoric on this app telling men that they need to grow up. And while that may be true, we also need to grow up.
I just got tired of letting things go and being taken advantage of because I was desperate for marriage. The guys I dated somehow knew that I was desperate for marriage and they would use this to get away with a lot of things. I also got tired of not being able to be myself. Sometimes when you're desperate for marriage or love, all you're focused on is being seen as marriage material, so you can't really be yourself. You can't even post certain pictures and videos on social media because what is your future husband going to say, or what are potential future boyfriends going to say when they see this? They're going to say, oh no, this girl is not marriage material. She's not serious enough. She's too silly. So I really just got tired of all of that. One thing that really helped me get over the desperation was focusing on my self-love journey. That really did wonders. I have a self-love podcast. You can check my bio for the name of the podcast. It's really good, and I think it'll also help you.
Okay, you guys gotta listen up, all right? Why are you obsessed with this guy? Okay, you don't know him. You met him in Montauk, you met him down in Miami or something like that, and now you're obsessed. You've known him for 4 days. 4 days. You know how quickly you can get the ick? Like that. He just hasn't done it yet. So why are you so obsessed on whether or not this guy likes you, wants to date you, is gonna ask you out? You are fucking out of control. You're spiraling. You're spiraling off of the dopamine hits of some cool, we don't even know yet, hottish guy. He's probably not even that hot. You're probably just blinded by the fact that you were drinking and having a good time and in a vacation state, right? And now you're obsessed. Fucking relax, okay? You don't know this guy. You don't know what his intentions are. You don't know if he actually likes you. You have no idea. All you need to do is sit back, observe, wait and see what happens. You getting ahead of yourself, wanting to talk to him. Hey, you gotta talk. We gotta FaceTime. We gotta talk. No, you don't. You gotta just sit back and just see what he does. If he likes you, he'll set up a date and he'll be respectful and he'll take you out and he'll be consistent and he'll build. And from there, if the consistency is over the period of like a month, then it's like, okay, now we got something here that we could work with. But until then, this is just a cute guy you met at fucking Surf Lodge, and that's it. You just got to sit back and wait and see what he does. Do not get ahead of yourself, because that will be the kiss of death. And I'm sure this has happened to a lot of you many times where you get ahead of yourself and ends up not working out. So pull back the expectations. We don't need any expectations. Sit back and see what he does. Through observation of his words and actions and seeing if they align, that will tell you everything you need to know. So just take a deep breath and relax.
Ladies, I say this and I say this all the time. Be very careful of how far and what you're willing to do in order to be or stay in a relationship with a man. The man-centeredness can leave you broken, can leave you depleting yourself, can leave you leaving your dreams and your vision behind, can leave you not even thinking within yourself in regards to what you want, what you like. Centering that man deprives you of your purpose. What do you like? What do you like? What do you want in this life? Do you know you are put on this earth for a purpose? You're not just put in this life to be a man's wife. And if you're with a man who's not allowing you to flow in your dreams, to flow within and to flow individually, and you're being silenced or pushed down because you have to live your life through him and through him only, and his way or no other way, or he will make your life miserable, or he will stonewall you, silence you, dismiss you, cheat on you, bring you STDs, STIs, mental health troubles, depression, anxiety, insomnia, obesity, early death. Gina Macy, your favorite Psych nurse practitioner, coming to you in another video on anything and everything regarding mental health and toxic relations, recognizing any type of red flags and knowing when to preserve yourself and walk away. Be careful, ladies, of what type and level of sacrifice you're open and willing to do in order to stay with a person. What kind of sacrifice you're making to accommodate him, his family, his vision, his dreams, his goals, his finances, without you being fairly considered, honored, respected. Respect is not demanded. Respect is earned, and it has to be both ways. The man respects the woman respects the man, vice versa. It cannot be demanded just because you have dingling between your legs. So ladies, be careful the amount of sacrifice, the amount of children, how your womb is being weaponized, your finances are being weaponized, your purpose in this earth is being. You're a child of God, and God made you to be here on this earth the day you were born from your mother, for you to leave a legacy. Even you as a woman, it doesn't matter. And if you are with a man, whatever purpose that man has to be aligned with you as well. Otherwise, the two of you are just not compatible. And knowing that, okay, I'm gonna call it, the woman has to call it a lot of times, because a lot of these men would rather keep you because it's cheaper to keep you than to maybe separate or divorce. And they'll continue to cheat, abandon you, neglect you, hate on you, disgrace you, shame you, bring you all type of sicknesses, like I mentioned. So, do you know you? Do you know you? And it's not easy to reflect on those things. What's your attachment style? Are you anxiously attached? Are you codependent? Do you have childhood trauma? Were you neglected as a child? Are you healing those? Are you recognizing your own patterns? I've seen this time and time and again, seeing my patients, seeing my clients. And I'm passing it along because I'm doing my healing. Are you doing your healing? Are you recognizing? Are you spending so much time being frazzled and upheaval because of the work of being in this relationship? The work the sacrifice the endurance you have to put in order for this relationship to work. Okay, bye.
This is why you need to get off of dating apps expeditiously. When we are constantly looking for love, it is us saying that we don't have love within ourselves. And if we're addicted to finding it, it's only a reflection of the lack that we have within us as well. There is nobody that can give you the love that you could give yourself. No one in this planet can give you the love that you could give yourself. I mean, and if you really think about it, most people are on dating apps for validation and because of desperation, right? Who can validate you like you? And if we're being real, the only thing you're going to meet on there is mirrors. And to save yourself a lot of pain and heartache, I feel it's much easier to do the work on your own than to have to learn lessons through others. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all of those, just delete them. And you guys can spare me I know somebody. Well, I guarantee you the percentage is very small of people who actually met the love of their life on a dating app. It's very small. Let's be real. I also read a statistic once that about 85% of the men that are on there, they're not looking for committed relationships, ladies. Come on.
I think any woman who chases a man, if you're chasing someone, if you're like, why won't you be with me? I love you. We would be so good together. If you're chasing down a man and you don't even give him the opportunity to come see what you're doing, to text you back, to call you, to message you, if you're always the one who is always like, where are you? If you seem desperate, then that's a turnoff to a man.
What's your best relationship advice?
If you're a woman and you feel like you're going to expire, there's no wall. None of that's true. The dating pool might shrink. That's fine because you only need one person. Who cares if it's smaller? You don't need to rush into anything. Please don't. I definitely rushed. The toxic ideas of expiring as a woman at 30 kind of got to me. We got married immediately. And then I had a baby. I wanted it so bad that I pushed past the warning sign. But there's no finish line to life. I've bought a house. I've had a kid. I have an amazing job. I was married. None of that stuff changed how I value myself, but I do know that rushing into things is a recipe for disaster.
Tisa said that her biggest lesson in that whole ordeal was learning that desperation is a dangerous thing. I knew I had really done the work from healing from my previous marriage when I was willing to walk away from good men. Let me cook. Desperation is a phenomenon that a lot of us don't want to talk about, especially when it comes to experiencing loneliness as a single woman. I just want to be the first to tell you that loneliness is not a problem. We all experience loneliness when we are lonely. It is your body and your mind telling you that it needs something. That something is connection. The problem is a lot of the times we try to cure loneliness with romantic partnership, even when we're not necessarily ready for it or have the capacity for it, as opposed to enduring the discomfort of it and finding other ways to build community. Because the right thing at the wrong time is still the wrong thing. So you may get a good man, but fumble a good man because you're not in the space to have healthy communication. You're just trying to fill a void. And anything that is just trying to fill a void will not actually accomplish what it was intended to do. So when you are lonely and desperate, or lonely or desperate and dating, what happens is you just try to fill the void with anybody who looks good enough. One of my best friends, Christian sexologist Brittany Broaddus Smith, often says that when you date or when you do things from a void, you're just bringing yourself back to zero. Zero is just the threshold for you to survive, not maintain or thrive. And usually once you date somebody that gets you to zero, you start to be bitter, or you start to feel like, dang, like this really isn't enough. And you think that the issue is the relationship, but it's really where you are and the work that you have or haven't done. And even if the issue is the relationship, you chose that relationship because of where you were at the time. And now that that person got you back to zero, you realize that zero isn't all that you need and it's not enough anymore. So I realized that I was ready to get married again and contribute to a healthy relationship when I wasn't just dating men that just filled the void of connection, but that I was dating men that, you know what, they have a majority of the things on my list, or these are really good men I could see myself with. But now I wasn't just looking for basic needs. I was now looking at lifestyle compatibility. I was looking at their communication and their defense mechanism. Do our trauma work well together and we're able to grow, or do they create explosive environments? Because even good men can be uncompatible with other good women. Sometimes your baggage is just different sizes and y'all can't get on the plane together. So when I stopped just thinking that the qualification was just that the man was good, was Christian, wouldn't cheat, I was able to avoid heartbreak because I was walking away once I realized we're just not compatible. It's no love lost. But from the standpoint of trying to really thrive in a relationship and build a family that loves God, that loves one another, you're not really walking the same walk as me. And that's okay. You're still a great man. But this good woman got to find somebody that's more compatible with her on these other levels that aren't just about making ends meet in a relationship. Because the reality is, everything that's good isn't good for you. And if you're saved, everything that's good isn't necessarily God. So yeah, I've passed up on a few good men. But I was proud of myself for doing it, not because I just wanted to get rid of men, but because I realized like I no longer need to just fill a void. I can find a partner that actually meets all of my wants and needs. Now, if you're looking for somebody to help you navigate your healing journey, I'm a therapist and I'm also coaching part-time. So you can hit me up on the camera APP and let me know if you want to start your journey. It's not free. And sometimes it's not cheap, but I do see clients in Georgia and DC for therapy. Now grab your stuff and let's go.
The reason why relationships are so glorified is because most people don't know who they are, right? They don't have a relationship with themselves, and therefore they glamorize this concept of being loved by somebody else, or like being in a relationship with somebody else, because they associate that status of being in a relationship with being loved. Why? Because when you don't love yourself, you want to be loved by other people, right? You care about being loved by other people. And people think, okay, well, if you're with someone, you must be loved. You must be worthy of loving. So everything goes back to the root of not having a connection to yourself, because people who have a really good relationship with themselves, they don't really like, okay, this is not a like down talk on relationships. Relationships are great. Partnerships are amazing, of course, but it's not something to put on a pedestal, because it's just like a relationship. The same way that you have a relationship with yourself, it's just a relationship with somebody else that you share visions with, ideally. So people who, for example, people who can't be alone, so therefore they're always like with somebody, always dating somebody, like serial dater, or like always back-to-back relationships, like jump from relationship. These people don't likely, they don't really have an identity with themselves, because people who really like care about their life in a way they value their own time and they value their independence, it is not natural for them to want to be with someone all the freaking time, like in the context of like a committed relationship, because they understand like it takes a lot of commitment, and like, you know, being in a relationship with someone is like a commitment. It's not just like it's not just having a person as an accessory, you know what I mean? So just ask yourself, if you feel jealous or envious of people who always seem to be with somebody, like, why do you value that so much? Do you have a relationship with yourself? And if the answer is no, by the way, and if you want to get into a relationship with yourself, or rather, if you want to build a relationship with yourself, feel free to check out the link in my bio. You can either try the e-course that I've developed for you, which is going to help you build a connection to yourself and build confidence for yourself, or you can even come on a call with me and to discover what you can do for yourself to help yourself, or join the monthly live workshops, because I have different ways to help you on your journey, because ultimately I want to help you feel good about yourself, because that if you feel good about yourself, you realize you don't really need other people in that way anyway. Like, we all need people, but not in that way anyway, you know? So
I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a lot of people who don't like what I have to say, but you're going to be all right. Stop being desperate for love, okay? Stop trying to love someone who doesn't love you. Stop trying to make something out of nothing when neither one of y'all aren't ready for what is to come. See, some of us are hopping into these relationships and we don't even know the depths of a relationship and what it takes to have a healthy one. And to be in a relationship, you need to mentally and physically and spiritually be together yourself as a person. And that's two worlds colliding, and that's two brains colliding. So if you two cannot figure out how to take your two worlds and put it together seamlessly, then it's a mess. You can't make nobody love you. And if you don't know yourself, you don't know how to love them, and they don't know how to love you because you don't know yourself. But you so desperate for love, and you so desperate to be in a relationship that you do not realize that neither one of y'all, or you in particularly, are not ready for it. Then it's the people that's like, oh, I'm so ready to love somebody. I'm so ready to love somebody. I've been there. I ain't never been desperate for love, but I've been ready to love somebody. But I tell you what, I had been dealing and dating and talking to so many stupid idiots to the point where I realized that my love was too good for more than half of these folks out here. And that is something that everyone has to come to the conclusion about. Not everybody deserves your love. Not everybody deserves your mental, your mind, your space, your peace, your intelligence, any of it. Not everybody deserves you. But that's only for the person who actually knows themselves and they're walking into a situation that they're ready for. But if you don't have any of that down, if you don't have none of that to bring to the table, then you have no business stepping into a relationship. It's too early. Give yourself some time. Give yourself some grace. It doesn't matter the age. If you know that you have more to learn about yourself and you need to sit down somewhere, then take that time to sit down somewhere. Don't worry about nobody else. If a person is meant for you and you are with them right now and you thought about this video, you said, you know what, I don't think I'm ready, then they will wait for you. Because at the end of the day, what's for you will always be for you, but you don't never, ever want to be desperate for love. And don't waste nobody's time.
Somebody got on my post and was basically like, I'm so glad we live in a generation of women who will get divorces and not stick with the kind of men that treat them bad. Whereas in the 50s and 60s, these women stayed with these men for a lifetime, knowing how unhappy and unfaithful the men were. But me personally, I pray for a generation of women that will walk away from a man at the first red flag, that will walk away when you know that it's not compatible, long before you get pregnant by him, long before you have to go to the altar or go through a divorce or have to go to a therapist because of all of the trauma that was caused to you in your life. I pray for a generation of women who are so comfortable with who they are, who know how valuable and powerful they are outside of marriage, so much so that they're actually okay with being alone, even if it means that they never marry or they never bear children, because they understand that the value of a woman is not contingent on if she's been married or if she's bore children. I pray for a generation of women who will not stay with people just because your thought process is, oh, if I never marry, that means something was wrong with me. Because I feel like a lot of women, they do marry, even if they know it's not right, simply because all these men and podcasts and generations to come have taught us that if you are not a wife, then what good are you? So I pray that you love yourself so much that once you know that this is not going to honor you, you walk away before it brings trauma to you.
Women are not supposed to fall in love with men, because when you fall in love with men, you act stupid. You have women who are going 50-50 with men, and then they still wash and cook for the men. You have women who a man call them at 10 o'clock in the night and act like they're in love with them, and after they get the kitty cat, the men leave and then they don't hear from the man again for months. And then that same man will come back again and call them at 10 o'clock and act like they love them for kitty cat, and they forgive the man. You have women who give up their hopes and dreams, work to support the man, and when the man get rich and famous, the man leave them for somebody else. You have women who takes a man into their home, their house. The man don't pay any bills, right? The man just sit around, the man drive their car, eat their food, and the man treat them like shit, and they accept it. You have women who the man cheat on them over and over again, and the more the man treat, the more submissive they become. You have women who financially takes care of men, give their man the money, their card, they're buying love. You have women who works for years, right? Doing everything that the man wants, being the good woman, hoping for the man to marry them, waiting to have babies because the man is not ready. And then the man leave them, right? Married a woman between 6 months and then start a family. And the reason for this is because, woman, you're acting out a character. You are acting unlike yourself. A woman is not supposed to fall in love with their man. They're supposed to fall in love with themselves, and then the love flow from them, and the man fall in love with them. But because you're acting out a character, you end up in toxic, unhealthy relationship, codependent relationship where men treat you like bad. So woman, you are supposed to fall in love with yourself, and then what overflow from you goes to the man, and the man fall in love with you. So stop acting out of character and start to act like yourself.
Men have been telling me that the reason why I can confidently and boldly say that I don't need a man is because I'm young, and by the time I'm 30, I'll start regretting all I say. This proves my point on why I will never let Christian women be desperate for men, because it just shows that they prey on our weaknesses, they prey on our desperation. These men do not really like women, even men in the church, because somehow women and Christian women have glorified and worshipped their men of God. Some of these men of God you desire so much do not really respect women, because they never ever really let go of their egos or give their masculinity to God. They just assume they know what masculinity is because they're men. How many Christian men do you think have prayed genuinely for their masculinity? They don't, because they think that masculinity is something that they are born with, as opposed to something that God gives wisdom for. Which means the dirty of the dirtiest men wait for women who are desperate at ages where they are deemed old, like 30, 35, 37. Men like that wait for women. They don't change, they don't evolve, they don't make money, they don't do anything. They just wait for women who have made money, who are wealthy and everything. Even women who love God fall for such men, because you guys have let men convince you that your age is an age of desolation. God never called a 37-year-old woman old. It is men who started these standards. God himself doesn't have them, which is why God can wait 43 before he gives you a husband, because he doesn't make old women, he makes daughters. He doesn't see his daughters as old, he sees them as his kids. Age is nothing to God, because God himself is ageless. We are the ones, and of course medical purposes, that have graded women into all these circumstances. So I want you to understand that when you are desperate, it's only the bottom barrel men you will ever attract, because real men of God are as calm as doves, gentle as doves. That's what the Bible requires them to be. So your desperation will attract you a man that is impatient like Satan. And you wonder why, as a woman of God, you pray and fast all the time, but your man beats you. You were not patient in that area, so you attracted the worst of the worst. So all of you desperate women out there, I'm talking of desperate women. Now, it's different for women who are waiting faithfully, who are doing their things. They know they want to get married, but they're not keeping themselves in one corner crying about it all the time. They are going around their businesses. Now, those are faithful women who are waiting for marriage. Now, I'm talking of you desperate women who operate in carnality and operate in the flesh. You will not attract a good man hidden in God with that desperation. You reek of it. You reek of the flesh. You reek of carnality. Go to therapy. Fix it. You have to decenter men long enough to know that your age is not a factor for their kindness. Because if whether at 20 or at 30, you will still attract the worst kind of men. And so that's why you need calm discernment. Are you hearing what I'm saying? You have to decenter men long enough to know that waiting until 30 to have kids is not old. fix it.